the continuing headache the Labour Party seems to have over Angela Rayner and this council house issue, the police toying with the idea of reopening an investigation. Is that something that's going to affect voters, or are you going to try and just ride this out until the general election and hope it goes away?
I do not believe Angela has done anything wrong. She's taken legal advice on her tax affairs. Yes, when you get a clamour, and it's coming from the Tory party for an issue to be investigated, that is happening. I'm absolutely confident at the end of that process, there will be nothing to find and nothing to fear. Angela's a straight, decent woman, came up from humble, working class roots, and I don't believe that she's done anything wrong. And I think that time will prove that to be the case.
OK, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, let's get more on the situation regarding Angela Rayner, as we touched upon there. I'm now joined by the barrister, Rebecca Butler. Rebecca, welcome to the show. I hope you're having a splendid Easter. So Bill Rammell seems confident, nothing much to see here. This will all blow over. She's an honest, upstanding member of society. But from a legal point of view, Rebecca, what happens next?
Well, it's an evidential point of view, really, not a legal point of view, because once the evidence has been investigated by the police, you know, what the neighbours have to say, then a decision will be made on whether she falsified documents or not. I mean, the law is that in order to get the CGT relief on a house you sell, in order to get that CGT relief, it has to be your primary residence. Now, you know, people get distracted over the legal advice. We don't know what the legal advice was based on. If she said, well, if I said I was living with my husband, am I liable for capital gains tax? And they'd say, yes. If I'm living with my brother, am I liable for capital gains tax? No. So the question is, where was she living and which was her primary residence? Ultimately, that would be a matter for the court to find and, you know, to come to a judgment on. But it won't go that far. Keir Starmer's thrown her under a bus already. That's fairly obvious. He's not looking at the legal advice. He's saying, I trust her. If it turns out that, you know, the police take the view that the neighbours were telling the truth, she was living with her husband rather than her brother. It's a bit of a stretch to think that she wasn't living with her husband and children. You know, then she's going to have to say, well, I'm going to have to resign. And then there'll be a deputy leadership competition over the summer months, which is probably the last thing Starmer wants. But he's already thrown her under the bus by saying he hasn't read the legal advice.
And Rebecca, do you think it's an issue that people on the Labour Party side are saying, well, it was only a small sum of money, it's just a couple of £1,000, inconsequential when you compare to the net worth of the Prime Minister or previous allegations like Naheem Zahawi? Or is it the principle? I mean, does the amount of money matter? Or is it the legal principle and the price is immaterial?
It's integrity that matters. You know, the number is irrelevant. You know, we can't keep on with this envy narrative around Rishi Sunak, because as far as I'm aware, he's never misled the officials over his, over his taxes. Nadeem Zahawi, different situation. He was under HMRC investigation, and then the conclusion was that he did owe that tax, which he paid. I think if she was smart politically, and what I would have told her to do is just say I was a carer. I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, I'm not particularly well educated. Can I pay you the money now? The story would have gone away in about 3 days if she'd done that, and that would have demonstrated integrity. But while she persists in calling people liars when they say she wasn't living there, she's calling those people liars. This story isn't going to go away. And of course, as I say, Keir Starmer's just standing back saying, well, I'm not looking at that legal advice because the legal advice is based on what you told the tax advisors or the lawyers, what you've told Parliament, what you've told the press. And the minute that turns out not to be the truth, he's going to tell the press that he's extremely disappointed. It's a very sad day for Labour, and she's going to say, "Well, I can't be the story anymore." You and I know how the stories pan out. You and I know how they end up resigning. And if she's misled people, she's going to have to go. But until the evidence is tested, we won't really know. It's her hypocrisy that's a problem, Martin, because she calls everybody Tory scum. And what is rather notable is that none in the Tory party have been abusive and rude to her over this. They've just said, sort it out.
OK, we have to leave it there. Fascinating, forthright, forensic stuff. Thank you very much, Rebecca Butler.